Every town has a ghost story that's been passed down through the generations. But what if those legends were true? My name is Miranda Young, and I'm the Ghost Biker. Hey everyone, happy Thursday. You are watching the Ghost Biker Garage. I am your host, the Ghost Biker, and I am here at the historic and very haunted Scott County Jail. And I hope everyone is having a wonderful week. I just got off a podcast with Miss Eleanor Wagner with Creepin' It Real, and I'm so excited about tonight's guest. So if you didn't watch the show that I just came off, you can go back and watch that on her YouTube channel. But kind of want to get into a few things we've got going on here. I just kind of want to say up front, I'm a little under the weather today. So if I seem a little discombobulated or a little bit off, please bear with me through tonight's show. I'm like I said, just a little bit under the weather tonight, but want to say hello to everyone that's over here in the chat room. If you have any questions for myself or tonight's guest, please feel free to put those over in the comment section. And if you don't mind, please put them in all caps so that I don't miss you as we're going through tonight. But hello to Mr. Ronnie Anderson. I saw where you and Bedford Paranormal had big event this past weekend. Love that team. They're wonderful. My business partner, Dr. Christy Sumner. Miss Janet Alm, hello. Thank you so much for tuning into the show earlier. Miss Walking Dead Zombie herself, Sonia Thompson, and good mutual friend of myself and tonight's guest, Mr. Mitchell Ross, hello. And Mr. Melvin Brazel, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I hope everyone is doing well. So just kind of want to get to just a little bit of news that we've got going on. Here we are, here early June. We're rocking and rolling here at the historic Scott County Jail and Rugby After Dark tours. Let's see, let me get this screen pulled up right here right quick. Got some really cool things that are going on here at the jail. This coming, or actually next Thursday, which is going to be June 15th. We've got our free teacher workshop that's going to be taking place here at the historic Scott County Jail. It's going to be hosted by the Tennessee State Museum. We are partnershiping with them, and we're very, very excited to be their location for their first workshop here. And, teachers, you can use this as 6 hours of your in-service training if your school approves of that. You can sign up on the Eventbrite link below. I know when we spoke to the director there at the Tennessee State Museum, he said that we have a lot of people that are signed up for this. I think at this point in time, we've got 25 slots. 13 have already been signed up for, and we anticipate that those other ones are going to go pretty quick before everything is all said and done. They will be accepting spots for or accepting applications and such to get to do this event up until the day before. So go check out our website, Historic Scott Co. Jail, to see the event, or go to the Facebook page, Historic Scott County Jail, and each of those are going to have a link to the Eventbrite page where you can sign up. Again, it is free. It does count as in-service hours. Get a free lunch, get to learn some really cool things, and you'll get to see a presentation by myself and my business partner, Dr. Christy Sumner, and get to take a tour of the jail. Like she says on here, we have 11 spots left. So definitely want to check that out. I mean, it is a huge thing to be able to partnership with the Tennessee State Museum, which is out of Nashville. So we're beyond excited to be a part of that. Also, just kind of want to draw attention right quick. Today is the 90th anniversary of Jerome Boyett and Harvey Winchester, who was taken out of the historic Scott County Jail here. If you have visited the jail, or if you have listened to any of our podcasts, we try to remember these significant events that have taken place here, and this is probably one of the most infamous ones that took place here at the jail. Jerome Boyett had been in here for 8 days before he was taken out by a mob of 25 people and lynched about a mile and a half off the property. And so we share that story a lot, but this weekend we are going to have the author who wrote the book Quest for Rome here at the jail doing a special autograph signing of his book. We do sell that book exclusively, and it is supposed to be one of the truest accounts of the event that took place the night that Jerome Boyett and Harvey Winchester were taken out of the jail. So like I said, that anniversary, we're remembering that did take place 90 years ago tonight, on June 8th, going into the morning of June 9th. And so definitely check out our page, because you will see where Mr. J.H. Gason is going to be here on Saturday signing books and such. And so you will have the opportunity with your purchase of a ticket to come in here to the museum. You will be able to meet Mr. Gason and hopefully purchase a book and get him to sign that for you. So that's going on tonight. And then also, just want to make mention of the fact, and let me get that pulled up right here. If you've not gone and followed our newest venture, which is historic rugby after dark, you can go on there. We have paranormal investigations. We have true paranormal true overnight investigations that take place there. We have a few dates of those. One is coming up, I believe, on around July 1st. But we've got several dates throughout the year for that, and those are just very limited special dates. We also have where you can go and investigate for 6.5 hours, and you get 5 different locations as well as the grounds of the village. But we've got some of the haunted village lantern tours that are coming up, and the dates that we have on the calendar, but actually have just a few tickets left, are the 11th, 16th, 18th, 24th, and 29th. We do have other dates on there throughout the year for these lantern tours. These are 90-minute tours, but these are the ones that we have just a couple tickets left. So you can go onto the page. Let me go ahead. I believe I've got that link saved there. I'm going to pull that up. It is historyhighwayshaunts.com. Go on there and click Rugby After Dark, and that will take you to our lantern tours, our paranormal investigations, and also our guided ghost hunts that we do there at the historic village of Rugby. So get on there and take one of our lantern tours with us. So want to go ahead and get to tonight's guest. So, because I know it's really cool. I always love when I have someone on here that everybody knows, and everybody has such wonderful things to say about the gentleman that I'm going to bring on tonight. I actually had the honor of being able to meet him in person there at St. Albans Sanatorium for Enigma Cons that we did back in April. And we spent a little bit of time getting to chat. Didn't get to spend enough time, that's for sure, because like I said, he's got a ton of stories and some just a class act. And so, like I said, I've been getting messages all evening from people who were excited that Mr. Robbin Terry is going to be joining me tonight. He is the owner and operator of ASHMORE Estates in ASHMORE, Illinois, and the R Theater in Auburn, Illinois. He is also the former owner of the original Mystery Machine from Hanna-Barbera Studios, which he would often take to conventions to help raise money for the Lost Limbs Foundation. Robbin is a paranormal investigator with an interest in equipment, and he is a large proponent of daytime investigations as well as controlled investigations for children. He enjoys collecting things that some would think maybe are a little bit dark in nature, such as the original Frank's box, Ouija boards, items from horror movies, information on serial killers, as well as dolls. We always love having collectors on here. He's appeared in indie films like Nightblade, Truth or Dare V, 5, Legend of Demoniac, apparently I can't read tonight, and Hell's Bells, Cruel Summer, and The Attached. He has also appeared on Ghost Adventures Aftershocks and Destination Fear, talking about Ashmore Estates, as well as a documentary from the Kling brothers about the encounter with John Wayne Gacy. So I'm going to go ahead, bring him on, because like I said, we've got a whole lot to talk about tonight. So please help me and welcome Mr. Robbin Terry. Hey, Robbin.
Hi, Miranda. Thanks for having me on. I'm really sorry that Matt Rife couldn't make it tonight. I had to cancel on you, but he's probably home counting all that money from those ticket sales today. So,
Hey, that's not a bad thing.
yeah, exactly.
Yes, thank you for taking the time tonight to come on. I know you're busy. Are you actually there at Ashmore right now?
If I turn the other way, yeah, you can kind of see the building behind me. So,
Okay. Okay. So, I definitely did not do you justice with your intro. Like I said, you are such a busy and just out there person. Why don't you tell me how you got started on this journey?
oh wow, it actually getting into the paranormal was a little bit different because I had we used to run a haunted house, and I had
Okay.
some people that used to come over to the haunted house and all, and some girls that stopped in one night after the haunt and said, "Hey, any chance we could do an investigation here? Because we built a house in an old movie theater, and so we live in this theater, and it's haunted as well." And I said, yeah, that's fine. Come on over. So this has been years and years ago, and but yeah, so they did an investigation. They came back and said, we really didn't find anything. Nothing here. It's like I said, that's fine. I said I had a friend of mine who's a psychic medium and he's also a joker, so we never really paid much attention to him. But he had said once before that that the place was haunted, and I didn't pay much attention to him other than I noticed that we'd hear voices and we'd see lights flashing off and on at times, motion lights coming on and off without for no reason. And so when these girls investigated, about a week after they got done, they called me and said, "Have you got some time we can sit down and talk?" And I'm like, "Sure." So they came over and they're like, "You got to hear this." I'm like, "Oh yeah." So they started playing EVPs for us, and some of them were so clear. I'm like, "That has to be you guys." And like, "No, that wasn't us. That's a voice that we caught." And I was so intrigued by what they did and everything. I'm like, "I need to get involved with this." I said, if you guys ever go someplace that you want somebody to go with you, let me know. And so I jumped in with them, and I'm one of those that tends to, if I do anything, I usually jump in with both feet at the same time. Sometimes ground, but usually both feet at the same time. And so that's what we did. And I bought a ton of equipment. In fact, I bought so much equipment, I had to buy a trailer to pull behind my truck to call holiday. So so we were doing investigations just all over the place. We did a couple hundred investigations over the few years that I was involved with them, and it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. We had a good time, but then they kind of stopped doing stuff, and I started doing some other things too with investigations. So we kind of broke apart. But and then we started doing some investigations in the theater, and then we started we decided to close down the haunted house. In fact, Sonia was in there. Sonia's actually been to the theater, and she's spent the the theater, and she had some experiences there as well. So so that's kind of cool in itself. But she came out there with Larry Mainland, rest in peace, Larry, but good guy. They came out and spent a weekend with me there. So it was a lot of fun. We had a blast with those guys. But so we ended up, we don't do as much with the theater anymore. But we had the haunted house, and I was going to sell all the props. We decided to get out of the haunted house program. We were doing it all for not-for-profit. We weren't making a dime out of it. We were donating all the money to charity. Mm-hmm. And when I decided to sell the props, I had a guy contact me and said, "Hey, I'd like to come out and take a look at the props sometime." He said, "Can I do it?" I said, "Yeah, come on over. So see what you think." So he came over and started looking at everything, and we talked, and then somehow or another it came up that we lived there at the house in the theater. And so he asked, he's like, "Any chance you might take me around a little bit?" I said, "No." I said, "We'll take you on a tour of the joint. That's fine." So we wandered through a little bit, and we got upstairs, and so we were talking. I said, "So do you have a haunt now?" And he said, "Yeah, actually I do." He said, "But I'm getting ready to open another different one." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I guess, yeah. I'm going to sell the one I have now, and I'm going to open up another one in Indiana." And so I said, "Well, what do you have now?" And he said, "ASHMORE Estates." And I'm like, "Really?" I said, "You're going to sell it?" He said, "Yeah." And so my wife's sitting in the other chair on the other side of the room, and it was like, "Oh crap!" So because I've been to ASHMORE once before, and I told her how cool the building was, that I really enjoyed it. But when I was there, it was with a group, and they had so many people in the building, and it was such a mess in there that we couldn't really investigate like I wanted to. So I said, I'd like to go back sometime. So I asked the guys, hey, can I come out and take a look at everything? So we did. We went out, and actually it was the Easter Sunday weekend, and we came out and we wandered through the building, and the building was kind of different because it was, when we walked through, there's no power, no windows, no bathrooms, no roof. Really not much of a reason to even buy the place. But, when I looked at it, I'm like, this has potential. And, and my wife's like, yeah, just buy it. You're going to. So I'm like, okay. So we worked out a deal and I ended up with ASHMORE Estates. We ended up with in fact, that's probably almost like the sunset that's looking behind me tonight. The sunsets are always great out here.
It's gorgeous.
Oh yeah. And that I shot that myself, and there was no filters or anything. That was just straight from my phone. But it, when I walked through the building that day, it was on a Saturday, I think it was, and there was just something about the building that I just had this feeling. And I always tell everybody that I'm about as sensitive as a rock. Because if anything happens to me, people are like, "Oh my God, that Robbin had this feeling, or something happened." It's like that's kind of cool, But yes, but when I was walking through the second floor at ASHMORE that day, there was something there that said, help our building, and it wasn't like the people in the building, the spirits in the building, wanted me to help them. I think they're perfectly content, but they didn't like the way the building was. And, there was one window actually in the entire building out of about 80 slots, 80 openings in the building. There was one window. And so everything else was either boarded up or kind of half-ass boarded up, and for their haunted house. It was pretty much in bad shape. And so we ended up putting windows in the building and all the way around it, did everything like that, and decided to do that. We put a roof on it. We had the roof on there because I think it was like about Memorial Day weekend. I bought it, I think it was May 8th. And by the beginning of June, we had the roof on it. And I was hoping to have a roof on it by September. But honestly, we had so much help from the paranormal community that it was incredible. I told everybody that I said, it was when I bought it, I left the attorney's office and I came out here. It was on a Friday afternoon. And I said, the only thing cooler than owning one haunted location is owning two. And I posted a picture of ASHMORE Estates, and my phone blew up. I didn't have a charger on me. The only thing I had was in the truck, and there's no electricity in the building, so there was no way to charge it in there. And my phone just drained. And but I had all kinds of people ask me if they could come out and help, and I'm not one that ever asks people to help. I don't like doing that at all. And but I had so many people that wanted to. I'm like, okay, I'm going to put some work days together. If anybody shows up, great. If they don't, that's okay. I'm good with that. And it was amazing. I had people that I have never met in my life that showed up out here. One day we had like 20 some people showed up just to come out here and help do stuff. And it was incredible. Without their help, we couldn't get it done. I was hoping we'd have a roof on it in September. We had it on there by June 1st. I was hoping we could start investigations around September or so. And we started doing investigations. I think it was in about July, because I didn't want the building to be used why it was in a bad shape. When people that had the bill or already booked investigations that came out here, there was stuff everywhere. We filled up 6 dumpsters worth of junk that was laying in the building. We throw stuff out the window constantly, just throwing stuff away, get rid of it. We threw stuff out the one window, and I threw it on Facebook and threw it looking for somebody, a scrapper, to pick up metal. And a guy came over, and we just kept throwing stuff out the window. It's like all the metal goes out here, all the junk goes out here. And so he just kept coming over and picking up stuff. But it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work, and but it was worth it. It's been fun to have it. We enjoy doing things. We enjoy helping people. We enjoy people come out here that have a good time and just enjoy the building for the same reason that we do.
Absolutely. And, that's one thing you got to say about the paranormal community is when it comes to helping take care of a location, it's not hard to find people that are willing to step up and step in and get their hands dirty.
No, not at all. And in fact, we actually had a situation where we put the brand new roof on there in June of 2014. In June, actually, it's almost to date. In June of 2015, we had a tornado that came through again,
Oh,
and it sucked the entire roof off the new portion of the building. It took half of the roof that we just put on off the other building. And so we were starting all over again with roofs. And the one roof that we put on, I couldn't do it myself. I didn't know how to do that part of it. It was a different type of roof. And so I had to hire that to be done. And then we put the other roof back on ourselves, the other half of it. But it's bad. I mean, you spend all the money to put it on one time, and then you got to turn around and spend it all the second time, plus the other roof. So but yeah, in fact, the roof pictures came up in my memories I think a day or two ago. And in fact, one of them said, "Mother Nature, you messed with the wrong guy." And because we had it back up and going about 2 weeks after she took it off, and we put it back up. So, but yeah, it was. But that I see a lot of times people too complain about what people charge to come in to investigate things like that. But the roof, when we had to have that done, the total was about $12,000, $12,000 to $14,000 and that was me doing labor on one of the buildings and then somebody else doing the other one. That was the cheap one. And and there's no insurance for that because nobody wants to insure these old buildings like this, and they do. I've been in the insurance business for 40 years. And if they do, they want to do a replacement cost, and you can't afford it. I mean, it just get crazy. So you basically reach into your pocket. So the money that comes in for investigations, I pretty much leave it sit just in case something does happen. And in fact, one of the girls that used to help me out here a lot, when that roof came off the second time, she had talked to one of her friends that I don't think he's going to fix it. I think he'll just sell it and get rid of it. And I said to her, I said, "Oh, you really don't know me that well," because it's that doesn't stop me. It's not going to happen. So
well, and that's what a lot of people I think don't realize and understand. I mean, just speaking from the jail here, I mean, it's a much smaller structure than ASHMORE, but we are climate controlled, and just to heat and cool the location can be extremely expensive, especially in the winter, like $600, $800 in the wintertime just to have it climate controlled. And anytime anything goes wrong, like you said, with a roof or when people put windows in and stuff to these locations, it is crazy expensive. And that money, the paranormal investigations, they honestly don't even really hardly touch it if you're just having, a few investigations here and there.
No, yeah, you're right. It's tough. I mean, we make it work. That's why you just kind of have to hopefully that you can get through a few years without any major problems and let it sit. So, and what money we do have come in, we try to put back in the building. We've done a lot of things there inside the building that different than other places. We've got the paranormal pucks that Ghost Stop sells. And we put that on a lot of the floors, and those are like a couple $100 a pop or something like that. And we put that, and we got about a dozen of them in there that we put them, and they actually help IR lighting. We've had people that come in and investigate here with have their IR light on their camera goes off, and they didn't even realize it went off because we have so much IR lighting inside the building with the other, so they can use that. We've got we put bathrooms in, which didn't have originally. All in the building. We have a shower and bathrooms. We have a kitchen area. So we've done a lot of things extra. Including we built 3 bunkhouses. So when people come here, there's 12 12 twin beds in there, and they can spend the night if they want to, or they can investigate all night. It's whatever trips are triggered, whatever they want to do, it's out there. We got a fire pit. I usually try to keep firewood out there for people. So we've done a lot of things to try to do some things that are a little bit different, and give people a chance to do something. The bunkhouse, the one large bunkhouse has a Wi-Fi TV in it. So if maybe husband and wife come out and one or the other doesn't like to investigate, doesn't want to do that stuff, they just came out because they told them they had to. They can crash inside the bunkhouse there and sit back on the couch and just watch Netflix or whatever they want to watch on TV and just relax for the rest of the night.
Absolutely. So I think most people here know about ASHMORE Estates, but in case they don't, can you share just a little bit of the history of it?
Sure. Yeah, it was excuse me. Every county in every state had to have a pork farm, and that's what ASHMORE State started off with, the Coles County Pork Farm. Back this building here, the original building on the property was it was here, and they had some damage done to it and all. There was a little girl that her dress caught fire, and she died as a result from the burns. And that building that happened about 1880 or something. I don't get all the dates perfect. I don't try to. I have my mind going up numbers, let alone try to remember all the dates. But yeah, she ended up perishing from the damages done in the fire. And so what they did is that there was, and I always think this is kind of cool, and nobody thinks anything about it anymore. But about 1916, a lady from the state of Illinois came down. So you got to figure that's over 100 years ago. A lady from the state of Illinois came down and told the county, build a new building. That one's in bad shape. You need to build a new one. So, there was a female that had enough clout to come down and tell them to shut the building down and start a new one. And so that's what they did. She complained about the building and said that it was there was vermin in the building. They said that they had rats running around, mice running around. She actually said that in an article that I found that the animals in the barn were living in better conditions than the building itself, that the house that the people were living in. So they tore it down. They built a new one in 1816, which is what you see today. And they had 3 floors. The first floor, which was basically like the kitchen and dining areas and all, and then second and third floor where they had residents stay. Usually the superintendent would stay on the third floor. Later on, as it went on, it was basically a poor farm, which people would have gone there that didn't have money, didn't know where to go. They may have been sentenced there from the court system to go live there. There could have been anything from rapists to child molesters. And just, we actually found an article of the baseball player that was there for rehab. So you had all kinds of walks of life that were there, and they weren't just from this county. They came from overseas too. There's like a manifest upstairs that shows where people came from England and Europe. And they're all over the place that they came here and lived here. So it was open to anybody. And that carried on for quite a few years. And then it finally shut down in 1959 when the public aid system started throughout the country, and there was no longer a need for poor farms. So the poor farm here was about 300 acres, and they worked it. They farmed it, they worked it, they made money with it. That was the whole idea. Was that's how the poor farms kept alive. Basically, it was from the farming, and they had like 20 some buildings on the property from that they would have for livestock and smoking their own meat. They were pretty much self-sufficient. They had their own school, their own church. Everything out here. It was like a little village because they were out in the middle of nowhere. And most of these poor farmers, you're going to find that are all like that because the people that had money didn't want to do it with people that didn't. And so they pushed them out away from everywhere and stuck them out there in the middle of nowhere. And that's what it was here too.
Are any of the other structures still standing? That was originally
no. There was a barn that wasn't on the property that I owned, but it was across the street on the other property, and it was up till about a couple of years ago, and they took it down.
Okay.
But yeah, there's nothing else here. Where I just built a house there was a structure they added on here. I think it was like in the 40s that they put this out here. They had it was basically like a workshop where they would have people come out and learn how to do things with their hands and to try to help rehabilitate some of the people and all. So that's where we're building the house now. It was the slab still there. We're just building around the slab.
Okay.
Then it turned into a psychiatric care facility. It was never an asylum. A lot of people think it was. It was a hospital. So the difference between asylums and hospitals help people. Asylums basically kind of put you in a corner and just let you live out your life there, so to speak. But they did everything from electroshock therapy and on. We don't know everything that they did because obviously you can't see those records. But yeah, they did a lot of different stuff here, and I think there was probably a lot of things that they probably tested or kind of just tried it a little bit and see if they could make things work and how they could do it. But that kept going on till like the 80s or 70s, and then it pretty much became empty. And then one other guy bought it, turned it into a haunted house, and then he sold it at auction after the roof blew off. And this guy bought it and had it for about a year and a half or so, and then he decided to sell it, and that's when I bought it. And so now it sits behind me, and in fact, we have an investigation going on tonight.
Very nice. Now, do you find that your investigators get more activity from when it was a poor farm or when it was the asylum?
No, it wasn't asylum.
Or sorry, the hospital.
We always correct people just because of that, but I think it's kind of a toss-up, really. Because we're not really sure because they kind of tend to overlap so much. We don't know for sure whether, which way it is. We've had people try it both ways. I think you're going to see more people that are willing to talk. The spirits that are willing to talk are probably more from the poor farm than they were from the psychiatric care facility and all, from the mental hospital that was here. And the reason I say that is that you can look at some of the old pictures that we have, and there was times where, I mean, they'd have like a Sunday afternoon, they'd be out on the porches and they'd be out there playing music and having a good time, and they enjoyed themselves, even though they had nowhere to go, but that's okay, because this was their home and this was the place that they lived. And that's actually we kind of picked up that tagline, like some call it home, because this is where they lived. And I think they enjoyed it. I don't think there was a problem with the people here. And I think those are the ones that communicate with them quite a bit. We've had Elva, who was in the original building, that we think she's still wandering around. In fact, there was a little girl that used to live down the street from the building, and she was about 7 or 8 years old. And her mom would tell me that she heard her daughter in there singing sometimes early morning. And she's like, she come in and she's like, what are you doing? She's like, singing with my friends. Like, where's your friend? She's like, she's from ASHMORE. And she's like, okay. And she'd call me. She's like, my daughter says she's singing with somebody from ASHMORE. I'm like, oh. I said, that's kind of cool, really. And she's like, yeah, but I don't understand it all. And she wasn't really into paranormal at all. So I said, ask her what she looks like. And so she called me and told me, she said she's got like a long white dress on, and she's got hair ribbons in her hair, which I thought was really kind of interesting, because girls today don't wear hair ribbons in their hair. So having her see that was like, okay, that's something that she would not have any idea that they would have had that in her at that time. But she said there was something wrapped around her legs, and something wrapped around her legs that she couldn't tell what it was. And I think that was probably the bandages from the fire. So, but she had numerous confrontations. I mean, with Elba. I mean, there was times she had told me one day she said, hey, Autumn said that you guys put Christmas decorations up this weekend. Did you guys put Christmas decorations up? And I was like, yeah. It's like, we were out of town. She said, but her friend from ASHMORE came down and said that she likes the Christmas decorations that you guys put up because she can see better at night now. And so I thought, well, that's kind of cool then. And so what I'm going to do is I set up a light and a lamp in there on a timer so that it would kick on for 2 or 3 hours during the middle of the night. And investigators kept unplugging it, and I kept resetting it. I finally, I can't go this every night. Just come back here, and I live 2 hours away from here, so it's like I'm not going to come over here and just to set the lamp. So we just left it unplugged. But I think sometimes investigators miss the boat on some of that stuff. They should ask, why is that lamp there with that? Because there's a reason behind it. And I think that if they just asked, they'd find out. But yeah, we tell people all the time. Terry, I see Terry's there in the chat, and we tell people all the time that you don't have to investigate this location at night. You can do it during the day. It works perfect. I mean, there's stuff goes on all the time, so there's no reason to worry about being out here till midnight or 1 or 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning or all night long. This daytime stuff happens as well.
That was actually going to be my next question, because when we were talking before the show, we were talking about daytime investigations, and also your bio talks about being a big proponent of daytime investigations as well as supervised children investigations. Do you find first, let's talk about the daytime ones. So it's just as active during the day as it is at night?
Oh yeah, I kind of sometimes think that it's actually more active during the day. I've heard voices myself, and I'm not one of those that'll go out on Facebook and just post all kinds of stuff that I heard it going on at ASHMORE today or something like that. I just don't do it, because owning the building, I think a lot of times when you do that, people think you're just trying to promote your building.
Yeah.
So I don't do it. I'll tell people that I know, that's like, you're not going to believe what happened. And and because they know me enough that that it's like, if he's telling us that happened, it's probably did. So, but yeah, so during the day, we seem to hear a lot of voices. We were, anybody that's seen the Destination Fear episode, when Tanner heard the whistling, we've heard that ourselves numerous times during the building. The last time I heard it, I was with Richard Estep and Brad Kling, and we all three heard the whistling, and we were in 3 different spots of the building, and we heard it, and it was the middle of the afternoon. So but yeah, it happens all the time, and I think the daytime stuff, people miss it, and they miss out by not doing it. And I look at a lot of locations, and what I look at a location, if I'm going to investigate it, is when was that location active?
Yes.
I mean, I kind of look at schools, for instance, and I'm like, why would you investigate a school on a Friday or Saturday night? Because there was nobody ever there. It was locked up. There might have been a janitor running around the place a little bit, but that's it. Unless that janitor committed suicide or died in the school or something like that, I think you'd have better luck during the day. So I always look at that and said, do an investigation during the day. And I've got a friend of mine who works at a school, and he says this stuff happens all the time during the day, at the school. And I'm like, yeah, that's because that's when it was. That's when it did happen. So I think you got to look at that and figure it out from that point.
Absolutely. And you guys offer daytime investigations there if somebody wants to book a daytime, correct?
Oh, yeah. We book them all the time. In fact, I see Terry in the chat mentioned that they had door slamming last weekend in the morning. And, so that happens. It's like, it's especially, I always look and say, during the Port Farm days, they were probably up at 6 in the morning, 6 in the morning, 7 o'clock, you're having breakfast, and again, headed to the fields. And at 9 o'clock at night, they were in bed. And, a lot of the EVPs that I think people get that with the get outs and the FUs and stuff like that, I think just think what you tell somebody if they walked in your bedroom at 3 o'clock in the morning, we're trying to, ask stupid questions while you're sitting there, you're in bed sleeping. It's like, I tell them the same thing.
Right. And Sonia says, not to jump onto the other theater, but she says, tell the story about the little girl at the theater that counted the investigators.
Yeah, that was actually one of the EVPs that kind of got me going with everything too. Is that there was a voice that came through that night. There was a young girl that we heard her, and it was basically she counted us like 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're thinking, is that her age or what? But she sounded older than 4 years of age, and she was counting, and we for so long we never figured it out. It's like we heard her counting 1, 2, and then 3, 4. And finally, somebody asked me one day, and I don't even remember who it was. And it said, "How many people were in the room?" I'm like, "Crap, that's what it was," because there was 1, 2, and then on their side 3, 4. There was people sitting on both sides of the room. I'm like, that's what she was doing. She was counting the people in that room, and I think that's what she was. That was going on. But yeah, we've had that little girl. Numerous times they picked up EVPs from the voice in there. And heard her excuse me, heard her say "mommy" and things like that in there. And the theater is something that it's been kind of crazy at times. In fact, probably even more crazy than most people even know. So, and kind of one of the reasons why we're not doing investigations there anymore.
Okay. What is the story behind the theater? I mean, as far as the resident spirits that are there. That were there.
Not really sure. I mean, it was called the R Theater. It was all owned by the Mitchell family, and all their first names started with an R. And so, ironically enough, ever since then, it's always been owned by somebody with the first or last name that started with an R. So it's kind of weird that happened. But Reed Mitchell lived in a house next door, which I purchased about a year or two ago, and he died in a flower garden out back. And to there. But so we didn't, we've had a lot of encounters. We've done a lot of EVP work there. We picked up a lot of stuff. But the one time that we did really something stupid, and which I do stupid things all the time, and which is one of the reasons why I'm in the movie The Attached, is I was doing an investigation in Petersburg, Illinois, which is like 45 minutes or so away from me. And the lady there that opened the doors for us said that the person that owned the place was going to be selling a lot of all the furniture and everything there. I'm like, well, that's kind of cool. And I said, yeah. I said, there's a lot of stuff here I'm interested in because I kind of like old furniture and all. And so she's like, yeah, just let me know what you want and I'll find out. So, I went through and picked out probably 20 different items that we wanted. And I picked out one armoire that she had there. And I didn't think anything about it, but I found out also that the attorney or the lady that owned the house there was also the attorney for John Wayne Gacy.
Wow.
And John Wayne Gacy was from Chicago. She lived in Chicago. She was there for his when he went back for the second trial. And so she would come down to this house in Petersburg and stay down there, just kind of like her getaway, so to speak, as what she would do. So we bought this armoire as well as all the other stuff, and I brought it home. When I cleaned it out when I was there, it had TV and everything in it. And when we got it home, I refinished it and took it upstairs. Well, these armoires have like a what's called a piano hinge, long hinge on there to keep, so the door opens and shut. And I made sure the door was like hanging down when I went up the stairs so it wouldn't flop open on us. When we got upstairs, the armoire wouldn't open. And so I'm like, okay. I thought, well, maybe the little deadbolt in there might have just shut itself. So I turned it upside down, turned it on the side, and started tapping it with a rubber hammer, trying to get the deadbolt to come out. And it didn't do it. I took a little screwdriver, tried to reach in there and see if I could pry it out, and it wouldn't do it. So I'm like, oh well, no big deal. I'll just leave it up here and just let it go at that. So we put it up there, and then we started running the situations there with some stuff. We had a group out there one night doing an investigation, and I call them newbie nights. We had like 10 or 12 people there. They were investigating, and 3 of my friends showed up that were psychic mediums, and 2 of them had been there in the house before, and the other one had not. So they're like, hey, let's take him around and show him what's going on while you guys are sitting in the back. Because what I like to do when I do newbie nights is I've got a headphone system set up with 10 different headphones that we can hook. Everybody has like little amplifiers on their headphones, that we sit around and let people listen to what we just did. We did a walk through the building, and we're listening for EVPs. That way they get an idea of what it's really like to investigate, not just, with all the work you go through with everything.
Yeah.
So they're wandering through the building, and, we finally get done. It took us about 45 minutes to an hour to listen to everything. And nobody's coming out. I'm like, where are they? And so I finally walked in, and then my wife's in there. I said, you guys about ready to come out? And like, yeah, we'll be in a minute. And I said, all right. So she walks out, and I'm like, what are you guys doing in there? What took so long? She's like, I'll tell you later. I'm like, no, really? And she's like, no, I'll tell you later. I'm like, okay, that's usually not her, style. So she's usually, not so, so stern about things. And so we ended up at the end of the night. I mean, I couldn't get this night done fast enough. It's like, we need to get this done. Okay, I already find out what's going on. So when they got done, I started talking to them, and they said, well, David is walking through the one that had never been there before. And one area that we have is we've got this, and it's right off the side, right off our stage, and I call it the green room, because if you've got a stage, you got to have a green room. So the green room area, and we have 45 records on the ceiling. And Damon started feeling, he asked Norma, he's like, what's below this? And she's like, it's the basement. He's like, well, because I keep seeing digging in the basement here. And he said, the name, the Duke, keeps popping in my head. And he said, so it's like John Wayne, the Duke. And so then he started hearing a song by that most people know from Creedence Clearwater, It Ain't Me. And so he started hearing that stuff. So they walked upstairs, and he was walking around. He'd come over by this armoire. He's like, this has got some really weird energy attached to this. He's like, I'm not sure. He's like, I don't like it, but it's weird. So then they're walking down, and he's like, okay, we're going to the basement. I know that you guys run a haunted house here, so I'm going to assume that you had clowns in the haunted house. He said, because I keep seeing clowns running through my head. And he's like, I also see a jail cell down here. And we had as he walked in the room, we did have set up like a jail cell set up. And it was basically because we had a Jacob's ladder in there, which is like, it has 50,000 volts that go up like this, and just, keeps climbing this ladder. Just something we did for our haunted house. And so we had that down there. And he kept picking up on the clowns. Well, we went upstairs, he got done with that, and he came upstairs, and they're like, what the heck? He's like, we're picking up on the Duke, the clowns, the digging and everything. He's like, what is this? And so, finally one of the other psychics there said, Patty said, Norma, who my wife was sitting on the floor in the back. My wife's not into paranormal whatsoever, but she thought it would be kind of cool to walk around with the psychics, because what could go wrong? So she's walking around with them, and but Patty said, Norma, John Wayne Gacy's standing right behind you. And I'm not going to tell you what's around his legs, but he's here to talk to us. And she's like, okay. And they're like, what the hell is John Wayne Gacy here for? And my wife said, well, I don't know if it makes any difference or not, but when I was in college, my roommate's brother was killed by John Wayne Gacy. And they're like, okay. Wow. And then there's 2 other guys there that night also that wandered around.
Wow.
And they said, well, when Gacy went to prison, we were for Department of Public Health, and all of his paperwork came across my desk. I handled all the paperwork for him going to prison. And all right. And but then my wife said, "You know that armoire upstairs that you didn't like?" And it's like, "Yeah." It's like, that was owned by the attorney that represented Gacy. And they're like, okay, so there was all kinds of weird stuff that was just kind of going together with that night and everything. And so it was pretty crazy. And since then, or after that, we were down actually having dinner with Brad Kling and his wife in San Antonio, Texas. And I was telling Brad the story, and he's like, "I got to come up and do something." And I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, I'm going to come up. We're going to do a documentary about this," because he was doing this. He started a new series called Strange Curiosity, and it wasn't so much about the paranormal as much as like, how could this happen? It's like, this stuff's really strange. What goes on? What causes this? What's making this happen? And that's what he did. He came down for that. Well, he came down and they shot B-roll stuff. They were doing all this type of stuff, and they had stuff happen during the day with his two camera guys too. And then Brad decided, okay, we're gonna do a little bit of paranormal investigation stuff because everybody thinks we're gonna do that. And he's like, "I'm too tired tonight. We'll get up tomorrow morning before we leave. We'll do it then, and then because everything's dark, so it'll look dark and all." He said, "We'll do it all right then, and then we'll take off, head back to San Antonio." I'm like, "All right." Well, they started about 7 o'clock or 7:30 in the morning, and about 11 o'clock they finally gave up because they had so much stuff going on. They were going to plan on doing it for a couple hours, but at one point they even got an EVP that said, "Go upstairs, Brad." And he had all kinds of stuff going on with which we think was Gacy situations, Gacy related. So there's an episode of it on Amazon Prime, Strange Curiosity. This one's called Killer Coincidence, and that you can find. And it's pretty bizarre, the whole thing that happened. And then we found out after the fact that the attorney used to keep paintings that Gacy did in that armoire. She stored those paintings in the armoire, and I actually had those paintings in my hands. I was holding them. I tried to buy them from her, and she just didn't. She couldn't sell them because she's not allowed to profit off of her client like that in prison. So, yep. So we didn't. I couldn't get them. I couldn't buy them from her, but it was pretty crazy. That whole thing came up, and then later on we've had other psychics that came over there and had encounters with him too. And I had one guy 2 or 3 years ago that said, "Hey," he said, "at break, I need to talk to you. We're doing an event at the building." And he said, "I need to talk to you." I'm like, "Okay." So I said, "What's up?" And he said, "Well, I saw somebody at the top of the stairs when I'm back to use the restroom." I'm like, "All right." I said, "You're a psychic medium. I would expect you to see people." He's like, "Yeah, but I don't know how to tell you what this person is." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "It's a serial killer." And I'm like, "Okay." And I said, "Who was it?" He's like, "John Wayne Gacy." I'm like, "Oh, he's back." He's like, "What the hell do you mean he's back?" And I said, "You don't know?" And he's like, "No." So we went upstairs, and he said, "Don't tell me anything." He said, "Just let me walk around." I'm like, "All right." Well, he came to the armoire and hit on the armoire and said, and this was not in Brad's documentary. So even if he would have seen it, he would not have known about it. He said, "There's paintings in this armoire that he's protecting."
Oh.
And I'm like, "No, they're not there." He said, "Yeah, that's why it's locked." He said he wants it locked because he wants to make sure nobody bothers those paintings. I said, "No, the paintings were there, but she took them out." He's like, "He says they're still there." I'm like, "He's wrong." And he's like, "No, really." I'm like, "Yeah, he's not. It's not right." I said, "They're not in that armoire." I said, "I took them." I said, "I had them in my hands. I know where they are." I said, "But they weren't in that armoire. Not when I bought it." And so, yeah, it was pretty bizarre because he did have those in there. She did have the paintings in there, but she had taken them out. Before we bought it. So, but yeah, it was pretty weird. So, and the reason we're actually not doing investigations there anymore is we had when we were doing them, we were doing them all the time and everything. We were donating, the money to charity because when investigating our house, I looked at it and said, we're not trying to make money off of this at our house. So like, we'll just, we donated all the money to charity. And I actually do a PayPal thing, hand it to people that same night, say, "Here, I sent it off. This is what it is." And, but when we were doing them, there's a lot of times my heart would go to AFib. And I've had some conditions anyway, but about 75% of the time that we did investigations there, it was going to AFib. And like, we need to stop doing these because I'm not sure what it is. Because I didn't investigate with people. I was just usually hanging out in my office. but it got crazy. So we just quit doing them, and and then people wanted to come down, and I said no. I said because everyone wants to come down there, and they want to try to communicate with Gacy. I said I don't know if that's causing my issue or not, but we're staying away from it. So we did. I did have one show, Kindred Spirits, that actually talked to me about wanting to come down and maybe do an investigation there. And when I talked to the producer, I said, well, you can, if you want to come down and do it, that's fine. You got to pay for the hotel room because I'm not going to stay here while you guys do it. And I'm not scared to stay there. I mean,
Right.
My wife's there right now. I mean, she's there, she's all by herself all the time there. And I'm not scared to stay there. I don't like the idea of, I'm not taking a chance with the investigation stuff. And
sure.
That is causing the problem. So, but yeah, so I told them, they're like, yeah, we can't do that. And I said, well, then forget it. I said, it's not even discussion. So, but I do have another group another show that was interested in doing something like that. And I told them the same thing. And, and they're like, we would do that in a heartbeat. It's like, that just adds to the whole story. It's like, yeah, we would, in a heartbeat, we'd do that. So,
did you find that the issue stopped when you stopped doing the investigations there?
Well, I still have the AFib problems and all, but it's not nearly like it was, with the investigations. So, but yeah, so that's helped a bunch. I think, calm down quite a bit anyway. So that's why we've stopped doing them, just not taking that chance any longer. And just like, nope, we don't need to do it. I mean, it wasn't like we were doing it for financial gain anyway. So it's like, we'll just cut it out. So that's what we did.
Yeah. And I mean, you don't want to mess around with that sort of thing. So let's talk a little bit more about your collection, since you were kind of talking about some of the interesting things that you've got. You actually have quite the collection of interesting and macabre items.
Yeah, I've kind of amassed a lot of stuff. I enjoy collecting paranormal equipment. In fact, I think one of my favorite things is that I had Bill Chappell out here in 2016. And he was, he said, hey, Rob, he's like, I'm going to fly out. He said, any chance you could bring some of your stuff out that I made? That way I don't have to worry about trying to pack it. I'm like, yeah, that's not a problem. I'd be glad to do it. And so I brought it out and opened up the bunkhouse and showed it. He's like, you got more of my crap than I do. So, but yeah, I had like 2 or 3 cases of digital dowsing stuff. So, that's some of the stuff I kind of collect some of his stuff. In fact, actually, there's a big announcement today too for speaking of digital dowsing. But the digital dowsing and Ghost Stop are going to merge a little bit. So digital dowsing is going to basically allow Ghost Stop to kind of take over the operation. Bill's still going to do stuff, but yeah, Sean just announced it today. Of course, I got the inside scoop a few days ago, but yeah, he announced it today, and so that'll be kind of cool.
That's
but
great
yeah,
news.
I collected Frank's boxes. And I've had, I don't even know how many I've got now, at least 20. And, in fact, that was another reason why we kind of quit doing investigations. I started looking around thinking, I got a lot of stuff. It's kind of expensive, some of that stuff nowadays. So like, yeah, I better just, kind of walk away from some of this. So, but yeah, so we collected Frank's boxes, Ouija boards. I've got stacks of Ouija boards that I've collected throughout the years. And talked to Robert Birch quite a bit. In fact, I gave one to him that we did a benefit for. He was doing a tombstone out in Vegas, and so we did a benefit for it and raised quite a bit of money for it. But yeah, it's just dolls. I collect dolls, which is kind of strange. I mean, it's 6'2", 300 some pounds, and I have a doll collection. So so it's a lot of different stuff. I've kind of collected some cars. Just sold the most iconic one just a few weeks ago. The Mystery Machine. Decided to sell that one. So that was no longer in my repertoire. So it's gone. But yeah, so we still got some other ones. Unfortunately, I haven't had time to drive any of them. I'm kind of stuck trying to get this house done, and so I'm out here all the time. Trying to get things finished there. But yeah, like Terry said, yeah, some creepy dolls. Some of the dolls I've caught are original dolls. A couple of them were, I guess my favorite, so to speak, that's the creepiest is probably the little ones that it's called Baby Secret from 1964. Mattel came out with them, and you pull the little chain thing, a little string on there, and she whispers stuff. And
Oh,
I mean, it's just creepy. In fact, some of the stuff she says, one of the probably the creepiest thing, and it sounds almost sexist, but the creepiest thing she says is like, "I want to sleep with you," and the way she says it is like it just sends shivers up most people's backs. So, but yeah,
oh man.
I think she says, Are we alone?" And it's like, yeah, what do you heck you to do now? But she kind of sits next to my talking Tinas from that I have from the Twilight Zone. So
Okay.
yep. So kind of a lot of fun ones. A lot of fun toys to have with and everything.
So are any of them actually haunted, or are they all just kind of just creep factor?
Probably more creep. I'm and anybody that knows me well enough knows that I really, really don't believe in a lot of stuff like the haunted dolls and things like that. I think that's a
Mhm.
lot of mind. People have that in their heads that
Mhm.
these things are haunted. A lot of times that and you can go on eBay and buy these haunted dolls. Well, who says they're haunted, and how are you going to prove they're haunted? I mean, unless they're going to sit there and unless that doll I buy it, I'm going to put it up on a table and it's going to tap dance for me on its own. I don't believe it. And I just have a problem with believing some of these things are haunted. I've got so many of that type of stuff, that we've never had anything weird happen with any of the dolls I got sitting around that are supposedly, some of them are supposedly haunted, or the Ouija boards I've got sitting around that are, I mean, I rescued one from a building that I'm involved with our fire department as a trustee of that an EMT, and I rescued one from a house we were going to do a practice burn. It was up in a closet, and I rescued it out of the building, brought it home. We took it out, and that's actually the one I took to merch. I said, "Hey, I rescued this out of the building, but you want to do something with it?" And it raised $3,000. So they're not always bad.
That's
And
true.
yep. So, but yeah, and so but yeah, there's so many people out there that are selling haunted dolls. I think they're just like they just run them through the conveyor belt, bring them in, and yeah, I'm just not a I don't believe it. Most of the time myself. But it's like
Well, with such a collection, I mean, if you're not having activity,
right.
you would think if there was one that was legit haunted, you would be having some pretty crazy activity from it.
Oh yeah. You'd think that we probably would have, but
Yeah.
Ernie says I'm mean to him. That's only because your wife's so nice to me.
I love Ernie and Denise.
Yep.
They're good people for sure. Let's see here. I was looking to see if we had any other questions or anything because we're getting up here to the top of the hour. I love the fact that you're an advocate on for kids investigations and stuff. Do you offer special investigations there at your location for that?
Yeah, we do. Actually, Terry and Ashley started that back in 2016. They asked me if they could do a kids' day. I said, as long as we're taking all the money and donating to charity, I don't care. And so we started one in October of 2016, and we've been doing them, ever since. We've started doing one in the spring. It went so well in October. We do it's a daytime investigation, and it's like from 1 to 5. And but there's a couple things we do is that when we bring, it's an investigation, but it's also a learning experience for the parents too, because we kind of think that, I mean, just like the little girl down the street, her mom didn't understand what her daughter was going through. And so we felt that this is a good way that we can tell people, hey, your kid may be having this imaginary friend, but it's just something that they can see that you can't. And we kind of explain to them and go through a little more in detail of what happens with that. So it kind of makes them feel a little more comfortable. And then we do investigation with the kids and all, and we kind of teach them about the trespassing situation and how to
Mhm.
respect the locations and how to be nice to the spirits and things like that. This year, actually, we did one in April that sold out. We got one coming up in September that'll sell out. But we're also doing a teen night where we're actually going to have teenagers come in, and we're going to start. I think it starts like at 6 o'clock at night, and we're going to midnight, and or maybe it's 7 to midnight or something. But we're doing a teen night, and that was already sold out. That's in September.
Wow.
It sold out really quick. I was kind of surprised how fast it did. But we're donating the money. We sent a check for $500 to autism. And there's a local autism class here in town, and so we sent the check over to them, for that to help the class and everything. And then we're doing the same thing, with the other ones as well. In September we'll be doing it, so we'll probably end up donating like $1,500 this year to the autism
Wow.
program at school. which is what something we want to do.
That's wonderful. Have you found that any of those children seem to get the activity from the girl with the hair bows in her hair?
Yep. In fact, that's what Ronnie asked about, how often the children get
Mm-hmm.
evidence. And, we have had some situations where they have caught things. I think sometimes with the kids, they have a vivid imagination. So a lot of times, it's more or less like they think they're going to have, ghosts are going to come up, tap dance for them when they walk in the building. And but we've had actually times where the kids have had some encounters where it's made sense to us, or when we've had activity. Usually that night, in fact, anybody that investigates that night, it seems like the activity is even heightened a lot more, because I think the energy in the building during the day with all the kids is just got crazy. And Ronnie asked about them being scared. we haven't noticed the kids have gotten scared, because all the lights are on, and during the day we have a couple rooms that will get dark, and we kind of take them in there and say, hey, we're going to go in here. If you don't want to be in the dark, then don't come in here. But we're going to turn the lights off in this room. So you kind of get an idea of what it's like to do stuff in the dark. And they're all like, oh yeah, let's do it. They're all into it. But we've never had any kids, that come out crying or anything. And we've had them all ages. And, we've had them from, 5 years of age on up, it's really well received by the kids and their parents. They come back all the time. We're getting them all the time coming back and doing it. But I always encourage, venues to do it and just control it. And I mean, when we first started doing this, we were getting, people go on Facebook, and the keyboard warriors were out there saying, this is horrible. They're having kids' days at these places. I'm like, newsflash, these kids are doing this on their own. So we're just teaching the right way to do it. Because how many? I'm sure that most people in your chat, when they were 12 or 13 years old, were playing with Ouija boards, or they're breaking into buildings,
go into the cemeteries.
Yeah. So it's like, go to the cemetery. So we're just teaching the right way to do it, because they're going to do it anyway. And it's like, why not? But I think that a lot of places are missing the boat with that, and they need to do that. And we've had so many times where people have come to our kids' days, and then a couple years later, they're buying tickets for our public events, where they come back for, they'll bring their kid or daughter back, because I don't have an age limit on my, when we don't, parents know their kids more than I do. They know them a lot better than I do. I'm not going to say your 14-year-old can't come in here because we got to be 18 and older, because there's a lot of adults that I'd rather kick out than 14-year-olds. So the 14-year-olds act a lot more mature than the adults do. So so we don't worry about the age limit. We just ask them to be respectful, and if they are doing a public investigation, if the kid's getting disruptive, then we would take care of it. But we've had more adults that are disruptive than we've had kids.
That makes perfect sense. And so if people want to find out more information about these kids' days, or even to book an investigation there at ASHMORE, what is the best way to do that?
Our website, ashmorestates.net, or a Facebook page, ASHMORE States, on our Facebook page. Either work fine, or they can always, they can call us at our phone number, 217-899-9978 is the ASHMORE number. And, then we can, be glad to talk to them. And right now, we're booking for 2024, and like I mentioned beforehand, we've already sold out. Most our Saturdays in May, we've got one left. And actually, I called Ashley the other night and said, if you want to do a kids' day next year, we need to get some days. She's like, we're just into June. I'm like, but I've already sold most of May, so we need to start picking these dates up. And so we've already blocked the dates for kids' days for next year. You got that taken care of. But it's kind of crazy. I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with Destination Fear coming out here. That episode airing at the end of last year. I think that had a lot to do with it. But then I think a lot of it is that even though it's COVID's 3 years ago, I think people are starting to come out of the shell, and they're starting to get out and do more, and back to reality, and starting to do more things and everything. So I think that helps a bunch too. So that's what we're looking at.
Well, and congratulations on your bookings. I mean, that's absolutely wonderful that you guys are as booked up as you are. I mean, it doesn't sound like you really. I mean, you said you don't have any here in 2023 open now currently, right?
No Saturdays, no Fridays, no Saturdays, weekdays, and a few Sundays throughout. That's about it. And we try to keep the price down. I mean, we started off when I first bought the place; they were charging $700. I lowered it to $500. We built the bunkhouses, did all that, and then last year I finally had to raise it to $550, and which is 10% over 8 years. So it's 1.25% a year is what I raised it, and But yeah, we've it's worked out pretty well. I'm not out here trying to make money at it. I just want to kind of keep things going, and, not have to worry about it. Because I no longer want to get up there on the roof and have to replace a roof. I did that, back in my 50s. Now I'm well into my 60s. I'm done with that. So, so if it comes now, I got to pay somebody to do it. It's going to probably double or triple from what I can do it for myself. So, but yeah, so it's, so we're just going to keep on going and see how it all goes.
Well, and as Ernie says, Ashmore is a great and active location, very well ran, and the price is beyond fair. He would recommend it to everyone who asks about a location to book, and that seems to be anybody you talk to that goes to that has been there before, or at least from my experience, nobody has a bad thing to say about Ashmore, and it comes highly recommended.
Well, that's because I stay out and I let Ashley and Abby and Terry and Holly take care of everything over there. See, that's why I'm over here and Ashley's over there. So that way things are calmed down and everything it works out well. But no, the girls do a great job, help me out over there, and trying to keep the building clean. It's an old building. It's a 100-year-old building. It's not climate controlled, so you're going to have humidity and you're going to have the heat, and it just tears it up. But we try to keep it the best we can, and so yes, we do. And Brownie Anderson, if you keep calling me Mister, I'm gonna have to drive out to Virginia.
Well, so we're coming up here to the end of the show, and like I said, thank you so much for coming on. Do you have any other events? I know I got to meet you there at St. Albans. Do you have any other speaking events or events that you're going to be at here coming up?
I'm going to be in Michigan Paracon. I think it's in August. I'll be up to that one. I haven't really done anything. I haven't scheduled anything because I've been so busy with this house trying to get it done that I've just kind of put my whole life on hold, trying to get this thing finished off. So, so I'm looking forward to trying to get back out and do some stuff. I was supposed to go to Virginia this weekend to, with the Kling brothers, and I just couldn't get away. And so I was like, yeah, so I'll just hopefully get out and do some stuff here pretty quick here.
Nice. And go ahead too and plug all of your sites where people can find you or visit your locations.
So sure. Yep. ASHMOREestates.net is the one here for the building. And I've actually kind of let the theater one drop because we're not doing investigations there anymore. And then that one, one thing that we'll mention too that I can't really say who it is or anything like that, but in October I think it is, there's going to be a really cool episode dropped that was done here at ASHMORE Estates.
Okay.
I don't think I've seen anybody do anything like it in the past. And when the producers called me from the show, and I told them, I said, Destination Fear was just released, and they're like, yeah, we're not going to release till October. And I said, we want to approach it from this way. And I'm like, okay, well, that's kind of cool because nobody's ever done that I know of, especially here and everything. So I'm really looking forward to it. And the people that were out here, it was great. They did a fantastic job. They had two skeptics. I shouldn't even say skeptics, totally non-believers, and never done a paranormal investigation ever. And the stuff that they caught had these guys almost wetting themselves. So
wow.
Yeah. So it's pretty cool. And then like we talked about earlier, as I mentioned Matt Rife, I've got a link on my page. He was out here about a year ago, and he was out here with a YouTube special that they were doing out here with I forget his last name, but yeah, they did an episode. In fact, my son, when he saw it, he's like, Matt Rife was at your place? And I'm like, who's Matt Rife? He's like, oh my God, he's so funny. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to trust you on that one. And so yep, but yeah, he was out here, and I had to go back and watch it. Like, oh, I guess that is him. So so he was out here at ASHMORE. So but yeah, so it was kind of, you never know who pops up. or where they're at sometimes when they come into these locations.
Well, that's wonderful. I mean, like I said, I love the way you advocate for the location, the investigators that come, and then just your charitable nature with what you do with the funds. It's just wonderful, and like I said, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing that with us tonight.
My pleasure. Thanks much. And hopefully, keep booking at the jail and the other location you have going on there, because, we like to share this stuff out with people. We've got a rack set up inside the door, so people can pick those things up, because they're not going to come just to one location. They're going to a lot of locations. So, we want to keep sharing it out there and work with that. In fact, I'm trying to set up a couple of things next year with doing some type of venue event, basically just for venue owners or managers. And then I'm also trying to set up one with Bill Chappell and Sean, Porter, since they've got that union going on now. So Sean's always been wanting to come out here, and Bill Chappell's been out here and loves this place. So I'm kind of hoping that we can get them to come out here and do an event out here together.
Oh, that would be wonderful. And that was the first thing you said when you came up to my table, is you asked if I had any brochures, and you took some and put them there at ASHMORE. And so I can't tell you how much we appreciate that.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, we do it at every location I can get stuff from. I always tell people, just send them to me. We'd be glad to put them up there.
And that's what works really well, because like you said, you get so many people that travel to these locations, because they're just not coming to one, they're coming to all. And we get so many people that ask, they'll come in and say, oh, have you been to ASHMORE? Have you been to Waverly? Where have you been? And then they're asking for other locations, that we would recommend. And so it's always really cool whenever location owners can work together and pass information on about those locations, because that's really truly what gets the word out.
Yeah, a good friend of mine, Mike Couch and Crystal Couch's sister, they have Rhodes Hotel, and in fact, Mike was just telling me the other day, I got to get back up there. I guess I missed, because he said there was a group came in there and did an investigation, and they got an EVP and said, "Where's Robbin? We miss Robbin." And it's like really? So it's like, so it's nice to hear spiritually looking for me anyway. So.
Right.
And of course, I think that they're probably a little bit naive, because they said something about he's nice. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's not, something's wrong with this picture. But yeah, Mike sent me a message the other night. Said some group said called EVP. It said we miss Robbin, because I haven't been up there for probably a while. So it's like, that was kind of cool.
Your reputation is known not only with the living, but with the dead as well.
I think the dead like me more than the living in most cases. So.
I can tell you, I like the dead more than the living, just because there's so much. I
understand that. So
yes, so much easier to deal with. But like I said, Robbin, thank you so much for taking the time to come on here tonight, share your story, share your location, because I know you're an extremely busy man.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, I'm glad to do it. Yeah, I was just actually, before you got on, I was working on the island here in the house, putting it together. In fact, my computer's sitting on the barn door that I'm getting ready to stain.
I can understand. I am in the process of fixing up my grandparents' old farmhouse, and I just got moved in there. And I use the word moved in very lightly, because I have my stuff in there. I had to downsize to this old house that's much smaller than where I came from, and I absolutely love it, but I'm literally living out of a box, and every minute that I'm not here at the jail, I'm there at the house trying to work on something, and it's hard to space that time out.
Oh yeah, I know that. When I go home, like on Sunday night, I usually end up taking my laundry bag that I take home and throw it in the washing machine and then put it back in, so I can bring it back out here. So it's like, I'm the only one out here. So it's like, there's nobody else around. So it's like, I wear the same clothes every weekend, just wash them, bring it back out. So it's like,
that's right.
It's easier than trying to figure out, I didn't wear this in the last week or two. It's like, yeah, I'm not into that. I'm by myself out here most of the time anyway. So at least I think I am. Yes. But
hey, and the others, it doesn't matter.
We got actually activity at the house that we built too. So yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Okay, I was going to ask if the location, if the house has activity as well. So it would have actually been part of the Poor Farm, correct?
Yeah, it's on the Poor Farm property, and it's built right above the activity center that they did. So, but yeah, I've heard stuff dragging across the floor. I've heard voices. Yeah, it's not unusual at all. So, um, yeah, I caught a couple of EVPs on our camera system out here, and so that the security system I've got inside the house, and so yeah, it's active.
Nice, nice. Well, I definitely want to have you to come back on at some point, especially maybe here as we get closer to October and your special episode is going to be releasing. Would love to have you back on to talk about some of the cool things you guys have going on.
Oh, sure, I'd love to.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, guys, definitely want to tune in for the remainder of the month here. Next week, we have the ladies from the Freaks and Geeks podcast. They're ones that I also met there at St. Albans Sanatorium. They were my table mates over there. And then we're going to be wrapping up the end of the month with the hosts of Dark Horse Paranormal, as well as Bigfoot and the Bunny podcast. So we're going to be rounding out June with that. Plus, like I said, we've still got a few tickets available for some of our guided lantern tours. We're pretty well booked up here during the month of June, July, and August here at the jail for investigations. We've got just a couple Fridays and Sundays, I think maybe one or two Thursdays available leading up for the next couple months. So if you want to get in on an investigation either here at the jail, we do have some at Rugby still open, some of the true overnight investigations. So go on, check that out. We would love to have you and love to see what you capture. And if you get something, we'd love to highlight it. So definitely go check that out, historicscottcojail.com and historyhighwayshaunts.com, and check out what we've got going on and our calendars that we have open. So until next week, I hope you all have a wonderful week, and we will see you next Thursday night. Take care.